Hello everyone, welcome back to Ful-On, your Fulham-centric Fulham podcast. I'm glad to be joined by the rest of the gang this week. How are we doing, guys?
All good, all good.
All good. Good to see you, boys.
Obviously, there's not loads of Fulham news to start the show this week. We do have a few things that we want to talk about that sort of happened. We've just found out, literally in the last hour or so, that Tosin Adarabioyo has agreed to join Chelsea pending a medical next week. How do we feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. It's a bit of a downer for him compared to joining Newcastle, which if someone had said that 5 years ago, that would have been a bit of a shock. But Chelsea aren't the club they were. They've also got a centre-back roster of 7 players already. I don't see him starting. It just seems like he's comfortable living in London, and it's a pay raise for him. May as well have got a promotion.
About yourself, what do you feel about it?
Much has been said. I mean, Chelsea, strange club. Been chasing Pochettino for ages. He's gone. Not quite sure what the overall plan is. Rumours that Bowley's thinking about selling his stake. As AJ said, this seems to be a move motivated by money and geography. Newcastle seem to be a project that's going forward. They seem to be more stable. Good luck to him. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a loss, but I'm not quite sure he's the calibre of centre-back that Chelsea want if they want to be challenging for the Champions League and the Premier League title. And as AJ's already said, they've got quite a big squad, and undoubtedly with a new manager, they're going to be buying more centre-backs. So, good luck to him, but a bit of an odd choice.
Yeah, I just also agree. It's a comfortable move for him, isn't it? Like you say, he doesn't have to go too far. And at his age, 26, he's got so much to do and so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets?
Indeed.
I think personally, for me, it's a bit of an odd one. We've known he wasn't going to sign a new deal for them for a couple of years. I think Fulham made that decision last summer that they knew they weren't going to get much money for him, so they'd rather keep him for the extra year and just let him wind out his contract like he was going to do. I know there's been a few Fulham fans complaining that we've just sort of let him go, but I think there was genuine effort from Fulham to try and get him to sign a new contract over the last 2 years. He just wasn't interested in doing so. I'm a bit shocked by the Chelsea move, not because Tosin is choosing to go to Chelsea. I'm a bit shocked that Chelsea actually want him, to be fair. I thought that they maybe their mindset would be a player caliber slightly better than Tosin Adarabioyo. I don't personally think I would be that overjoyed with replacing Thiago Silva with Tosin Adarabioyo, but it is what it is. I don't really want to talk too much more about Tosin, to be fair. I think we covered quite a lot about him in the pod a couple of weeks ago. So let's move on and talk a bit more, some positive news for Fulham's actual players. Kenny Tete has signed a 1-year extension to his contract. How do you guys feel about that, AJ?
Yeah, I think that's great news. It gives him the opportunity to see whether or not this injury is long-term or not, whether or not he can continue to perform in the Premier League. It gives Castagna, who is realistically now our first choice right back, some pressure to see whether or not Tete can get back into the fold. It's always good to have two excellent players in a position, and I'd like to see Tete get back to his best because I think he is a superb, both defensive and offensive right back. He might not have the legs of someone like Robinson in terms of pace, but in terms of his defensive stature, his size, his ability to tackle, I just think he's incredible, and it's good to see we're keeping him around for a little while longer at least.
South Drew?
Echo that. A fully fit Kenny Tete versus a fully fit Castagna. I'd go with Tete on form. But I'm glad he's staying. I am glad he's staying because, I mean, the alternative is if he goes, what do we have behind him? I'm not entirely sure. So for that reason alone, I'm glad he's staying. I'd like to see him back to his best because he's a bit of a favourite of mine. I think he's a favourite of a lot of Fulham players. So yeah, I'm quite pleased about that.
Yourself, Mozza?
Yeah, I think him and Castagna are quite equal in ways where they can both have a really good game, but then a not so good game. Castagne's had a good season. Obviously, Tete's had that injury, so I'm glad he is staying as well. Is he going to be playing in the Euros? Do we know? Is he in the Dutch first team?
It's a good question. I can certainly find out while we carry on with the pod and let you know.
Let's have a double check now. Personally, my feeling, I love Kenny Tete. I am one of the many Fulham fans who love watching him play right back. You know, I think the fact that we managed to have a player of his caliber in the Championship was pretty impressive for us. And his quality definitely helped us get back up into the Premier League. And it's a bit of a shame he got his injury when he got his injury last year, because I think he'd had a run of games where he was absolutely superb, and then obviously picked up the injury. Obviously, we've got Timmy Chestnuts in, who's also played pretty well, and I think it's good to have two good players in each position. You know, I think that should be most clubs' aim. And I'd be quite happy if our two right backs are Kenny Tete and Castagna, because it's good competition for that place. That and the fact that, as you guys say, you know, Kenny Tete is he's a lovely guy. He's a good player. You know, he's definitely the sort of player you want around your team. So I'm quite pleased with it.
Yeah,
Did he get picked for the Dutch
I
squad?
can confirm that he hasn't been. He's not in the list of defenders, at least according to Goal.com. Anyway,
That'll be down to
I'm
the
not
injuries
too
then.
sure. Yeah, not too shot with the injury. And then obviously the other good news about is that Bobby Decordova-Reid has been offered a 2-year contract at the club. I'm not sure if he signed that yet, but we know it's on the table. How do you guys feel about that?
yeah, that's not a bad one. Again, I think we touched on it in a previous podcast where Bobby Decordova-Reid is a jack of all trades, master of none. He won't fit in our team in his probably preferred position, which is like a number 10 shadow striker, because we don't play that particular role, at least under Marco Silva. And if we did, we'd probably be looking to put Jay Stansfield in it as of next season to get him to encourage to play in that role. So it's good to have him. It's good to have the depth. I think if he signs it, great. If he doesn't, gives us an opportunity to look for someone of similar caliber just for squad depth. It's a good move from the club.
Sorry, yourself?
I think I've gone on record before saying, I mean, Silva's referred to him as being tactically perfect. Silva was the driving force behind this. AJ's quite right about Bobby. I mean, he plays probably central attacking midfielder. His most successful season, I think, in terms of goals was when he was playing in that exact position that AJ was talking about for Bristol City. We don't actually play that. If he'd have left, I'd have been disappointed, but I wouldn't have been devastated because, again, he's one of the older players of the squad, but his character's great. He doesn't let you down. But this has been a recurring theme for us all, I think. We're all concerned about the age of the squad. I think, and AJ's stats man here, I think we've got the first or second oldest squad in the league. Or we did have last year. First oldest.
Yeah. I think it's roughly 27 and a half years old or something like that.
Yeah, well, it's definitely up there. And with the amount of talent we've got coming through our academy, I mean, talking about Bobby specifically, I mean, you'd think he's natural air. I mean, AJ's referenced Stansfield. I'm not entirely sure that's right. I would think probably Luke Harris playing through the middle as the attacking midfielder. I think Stansfield, and I've said this before, and I know AJ and I disagree on this, but I see Stansfield playing more of a wide forward a la Rashford, because at the moment, as we all know, Muniz has got the number 9 locked down. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's got more experience. But Stansfield is clearly going to be featuring next season because Silva said so. But going back to Bobby, he's staying. I'm not disappointed.
How about you, Mozza?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if I misheard, but has he actually agreed to that offer, or has it just been offered at the moment?
No, it's been offered.
He
hasn't signed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Bobby Reid fan. Would be disappointed if he went. I think he has sort of become more of an impact player for us, so he will come on as a sub, maybe in the second half, or whatever. I think he tends to have a better game when he does that for us, rather than when he starts. Not that I'm ever disappointed if he does start. I think he's scored some really important goals for us over the season. Well, over all the seasons that we've had him. So yeah, would like to hang on to him very much. I don't quite think he's past his peak yet. I understand what you guys are saying about having an older squad, but I think he is one of those players where we could quite value his experience and what he brings to the squad. So yeah, I really hope he stays.
No, I think I echo pretty much everything that everyone said, really. I think that Mozza, you're right in the sense of what he is. I think he's great to have around the team. I think he's enough like Kenny Tete. He's a good influence on the squad as a whole. And he's a nice guy. Another one of those things. I know I say it a lot. He's a nice guy, and I quite like having nice guys play for Fulham.
Roy
And
Keane's going to be at your throat. You keep calling everyone a nice guy.
It's fine. I know a few of Roy Keane's friends, so it's fine. We'll deal with that when it comes. I think that he is one of those players that his versatility sometimes is a little bit of his downfall in the sense of he's never really managed to make one position his own, but he's a good player in multiple positions, and ultimately that's great for the squad to have because he fills gaps when they come. And it's always handy to have players that maybe on the bench coming on that can fill multiple positions. And I agree with Drew that I think next year it would be nice to see Luke Harris maybe starting to take up that 10 position and being, behind Pereira when it comes to playing sort of that position. And I also agree that I personally think that Jay Stansfield should be sort of a la Rashford, sort of left-sided striker out on the wing as well because he can cover that position. He's got the pace for it. And
sorry, mate, just one thing about Harris. I expect him to go back out on loan again next year. I don't think.
I wouldn't be too crazy. I wouldn't be too crazy at that. I think that it wouldn't surprise me if he maybe goes out on loan first half of the season and we see where it goes from there. Because he hasn't really been tested high enough up. But I wouldn't be too annoyed if he's in squads and get some game time. But I think the club will make that decision on that.
I was going to say, just to elaborate on my point, it wasn't so much of him playing in that number 10 creative role. It was more of a shadow striker in terms of Jay Stansfield, which
we don't play that.
Yeah, we don't play that. But if we were to play that, I could see him doing that. Was more my point.
I don't disagree. I think it's one of those things that it's one of those things. I think having Bobby around is a good thing, and I also agree with what Drew said. If he stays, great. If he'd left, it wouldn't be the end of the world. If he doesn't take that 2-year contract because he thinks that his football is probably going to be better stuff going elsewhere, I wouldn't be too shocked by that. A club like Ipswich coming up might well use a Bobby Decordova-Reid coming up into the Premier League. Not that I'm wishing him to go, but that is what that is. Obviously, one last bit of Fulham news is that obviously with Lewis Barmore stepping away to manage international level, it's all basically it hasn't fully been announced yet, has it? That Giancarlo Santo is going to be Fulham's new assistant manager. I think Drew brought it up in the last pods when we were talking about sort of who was going to replace Lewis Barmore. He seemed to know quite a bit about him. I'm not going to admit that I know loads about him as a manager. I am fully in the I trust Silver's what Silver wants, and when we go with that, sort of Drew, you knew a bit more about him, talking about him.
Yeah,
would you sort of feel a bit as a move?
I mean, this is another, and we've talked about this as well. This is another sign that Silver's influence is probably greater than any manager that has managed under the Khans. He was a former Silver player. Silver earmarked him. He had his first foray into management at Casapia last year. I believe he was their caretaker manager, but it was already lined up, so there was no great surprise. I don't expect it to have a massive impact in the terms of the way we play, and I think it's very much a continuity appointment. But again, I think it underlines the fact that it's very much Silver's show in terms of this appointment. So. And you all know my thoughts on that. We discussed it in previous pods. I think Silver's the biggest asset Fulham have got. And I make no bones about it. So, but yeah, that's it. I don't expect a massive change in terms of how we play stylistically or anything like that.
I don't really have anything to add to that. I think Drew's hit the nail on the head.
How about you, Mozza?
Yeah, well, I'm just glad that there's that relationship there. Let's see what happens. I trust it.
We're all fully in Silver. We trust sort of boat, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to move on a bit from Fulham news, and we're just going to talk about sort of some Premier League news. I think if you're talking about the Premiership at the moment, the one and only thing that there is to talk about is just sort of managerial madness that's going on. There's quite a lot of managers chopping and changing. I don't remember the last time a beginning of a pre-season was this sort of this messy in terms of management and
Ash,
changes
we haven't
of
even
manager.
got to begin the pre-season yet.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Unless you're Spurs and Newcastle, of course. Or
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course, you're not wrong. I think I don't remember the last time it was this messy, to the point where before we came on air, I had to sort of double check online just to make sure I wasn't missing anything in terms of clubs and managers and clubs without. Obviously, we know that West Ham have now appointed their manager. We know that, Lopetegui. We know that Chelsea are pretty much uh, nailed down Maresca. It hasn't fully been agreed.
It's a 5-year deal,
we know,
apparently.
I
a
think
5-year deal, which
I
means
think it has now.
yeah, it's been agreed. So it's a 5-year deal, which means he's going to have to find out what he's going to do with 48 months' pay with no job. But we'll see how that goes. And then we look at obviously Leicester. Obviously going to have to replace him. I read today that I think ex-Chelsea manager Sarri was in lineup to potentially take over there.
Maurizio,
which is a bit.
Oh, I'd like to see
left
Maurizio
field.
back in the. Yeah, I'd like to see Maurizio
Bit
back in
left
the league.
field.
As you can imagine.
And obviously, before we sort of start coming over, there's obviously then we got Brighton's manager's job still completely vacant. I haven't seen any sort of strong links with that in the last couple of days. So I think they might be taking their time with it. And then obviously now that Leicester have lost their manager Gonzari, the good news is that it means that we were talking about in the last episode about McKenna and potentially him leaving Ipswich. It means he'll stay at Ipswich. There's a lot to take in there in terms of managerial movement and people coming in and out.
You've missed a few.
Well, mate, I probably have missed a few. It's hard to keep up with everything.
I think the biggest kettle of fish there that we haven't actually raised is also company to Bayern Munich as well. That's
I can't get my head around that. I mean, fair play to him, but that just seems such a strange move. Like to be relegated and then
failing upwards.
Go to that. I mean, good luck to him, but wow,
he must have a fantastic agent. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
What are our feelings on the managers looking to come into the Premier League or sort of changing around jobs coming in? Like AJ, how do you feel about some of the names that are linked with it? I'm a bit.
Well, we've got Arnie Slot in now as well. De Zerbi, we still have no idea where he's going. Not Premier League anymore, but Burnley are looking for a new manager too, obviously, since the company's departure. Our favourite person, Scott Parker, has been heavily linked to that job. So good luck to Burnley.
No comment.
No comment there. It's just it's a wild show of managerial mess at the moment, and I really am just so glad that Marco Silva is nailed down at the moment. Fingers crossed, touch wood, and all of that stays the same until the end of the window, because it's getting a bit ridiculous, and I think there's more ridiculousness to come before the end of the summer. It's just going to be a crazy one. We're yet to see whether or not Manchester United will be parting ways with Erik ten Hag as well, and who they decide to bring in. It's crazy. As you said, Ipswich have had their manager sign a new deal, which is excellent for them. At the very least, it means that if someone does come knocking, they get a huge payout for it, which will keep them afloat too. Yeah, it's just wild. I don't know where to begin with it, really.
Drew, how about yourself, mate?
Starting with that, AJ's last point, I think McKenna staying at Ipswich was the right thing to do. They're not going to be expected to make a big dent. His ascension through the divisions with Ipswich has been significant. I think that, I predict that the league will end up viewing him much the way they did Rob Andrew at Luton. I think it'll only enhance his reputation. And I'm pleased for Ipswich as well. I'm pleased that he's staying. Hopefully they'll keep their championship spirit together, and I hope they have a good season. Apart from obviously when they play us, De Zerbi's a strange one, and Ash already touched. Mozza, touched on this with the Bayern Munich appointment, because I can't speak for you boys, but I thought he would be looking at sort of the Chelsea Bayern level. And of course, they've both been filled now. So I'm not quite sure where that leaves him. It seems very strange. He's got a reputation of being a bit of a nomad and only lasts about 2 years. Interestingly enough, there's whispers of Graham Potter going back. Possibly also Leicester are looking at him, but I'm not too sure. I have lots to say about Scott Parker. I have nothing against Burnley. Okay, but if that board appoint him, then they'll be doing wrong by their fans, because we've seen how he plays up. What he did to Bournemouth, deliberately getting himself sacked the season that he thought they were going to go down. And Burnley's a strange town, because you go up there, there's no one wearing a Man United shirt or a Liverpool shirt. They are all hardcore Burnley fans. Yeah. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to take to him, bearing in mind the enmity with which he's viewed by both Fulham fans and the Cherries, who have not got a good word to say about him.
And Club Brugge. Can't forget about them.
AJ, I take your point, but they were smart enough to get rid of him after 15 games. So,
yeah, very true.
Good luck to them. Ash, you're quite right. We don't know what else is going to happen. The whole Ten Hag situation still hasn't been resolved. It seems like Jim Ratcliffe is more interested in making people redundant if they don't start giving up their work from home rights. So yeah, there is a lot going on. I'm still amazed, and Luton fans will hate me for saying this, how someone hasn't come in for Rob Andrew, because I thought he did really well last year, and I expect quite a few of their players to be picked off. Ash, you covered this on the last episode, that Barkley to Villa looks like it's going to happen, and I imagine our former player as well, young Elijah, has been heavily linked with the Toffees. So I can see, Luton losing a few. And of course, going back to Fulham, we've just lost a centre-back, and we've been linked with one of theirs, haven't we? I've forgotten his name. One of you boys will tell me who it is, no doubt. So yeah, a lot's going to change, but it has been, to echo Ash's point, it's been quite frenetic. And I can't remember it being like this for a long time. So that's my.
How do you feel about him, mate? As a sort of managerial merry-go-round, as to put the old cliche together.
I feel like you've all read my notes, but I'm only going to. Horrible going last. I actually, the two things that I'm most interested in, or that stood out to me, was when De Zerbi left Brighton. Sorry, I can't remember if he left by mutual consent or if he was sacked.
Mutual consent.
I found that quite strange, but then obviously everyone was saying, oh, well, maybe he's lining himself up for the United job. And then I watched the Cup final last weekend, and I don't know if any of you saw the post-match interview that Lineker and Shearer et al. Did with him on the touchline. And I thought Shearer kind of made it a little bit more personal. They were asking him about how he felt the media have criticised him. And I actually thought Ten Hag came over quite well. But he was I think he pretty much said, like, yeah, you have all criticised me, sort of thing. And there we go. But I don't really know why they brought that up after he's just won the FA Cup. So I think had he lost that final, maybe he would have gone straight away. We've still not heard anything. Maybe the board are still deciding. Not sure. One of my old friends is a lifelong United supporter. He's from Surrey, so he's a proper Manchester United supporter.
No offence to our editor Daniel there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Dan, I forgot. Got to get the picture in where I can.
Mozza's screen's about to go black.
Yeah.
I continue on my path to be the most hated man on this podcast.
You're doing well.
Yeah, I was speaking to my mate who's the United supporter, and it's just funny getting his take on things and how it's all changed over the years since the Fergie era, and how it has gone very, very downhill. I mean, we can even look at Chelsea as well, since they had their sort of Mourinho golden era and then some, and what it is now. I don't know if I'll be shocked or not shocked if Ten Hag stays there. But then, who do they get in? It's almost like the impossible job, the impossible answer to that question. I could see De Zerbi there, but I don't know. Do they still give Ten Hag another season or another 6 months? See where they're at Christmas. Who knows?
Isn't the issue with, and AJ, you'll probably know this because you're better across the stats than I am. Isn't Ten Hag going into the final 12 months of his deal?
Something like that. I'm not entirely sure.
So it seems to me it's not a case of not sacking him. They either extend him, or they sack him. I don't think leaving him is effectively what would be a lame duck manager for 12 months.
I don't see that happening. I think
it's ideal.
I think it's likely it will heavily depend on the Euros because Jim Ratcliffe's got his heart set on appointing the England manager, Southgate, thank you, appointing Southgate into the role. And I don't think we're going to hear anything about Southgate's future until post-Euros, because we've seen what the UK media does to England managers when they start talking about their future before a tournament, and it would become absolutely self-destructive, and the FA won't allow that. So even if there's already an agreement in place, it will not be found out, and unless there's some ridiculous leak. The FA just won't have it.
AJ, I accept that, but wouldn't the problem be then that if that's the case, it heavily eats into the transfer window and United will be playing catch up?
They always are anyway, to be fair to them. And a lot of their transfer policies are focused around the non-managerial staff. So they've appointed that chap from Newcastle who's also going to be heavily involved in transfers. So they could very well and truly buy a whole team of players and then appoint Southgate, which they could consider working in their favour, because Southgate's just come out of international management where he doesn't necessarily get to pick and choose his players like a club manager would. He gets a roster of English talent. He has to pick from that roster of English talent. It's almost like having one big club squad and having to pick your best players out of it to start.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think that we know that the managerial situation around many clubs in the Premier League is a bit of a mess at the moment, and obviously we know about Jim Ratcliffe has been linked to Southgate 3 or 4 times. I think that is probably a perfect segue for us to move on anyway, talking about the managerial movement, and we can talk about Gareth Southgate's current job, which is obviously moving on and talking about the Euros. His current job obviously involves him having to dwindle down what is a provisional Euro 2024 squad, which has obviously now been announced. I'm going to bring it up on the screen for everyone who's watching, and everyone who is sort of listening in on the podcast. I'll read it out for you just so we have it. Just for everyone's sort of knowledge, really, this is the England provisional squad, of which we know England are going to have to lose 5 names from, unless obviously there's some injuries in the 2 friendlies that are coming up this week. That decision obviously will fall on Southgate's shoulders. But just going through the squad, what I can see is that we've... I'm just going to bring that back up to full screen, sorry. We can see that obviously in goal he's picked 4 goalkeepers. He's gone before Dean Henderson, Jordan Pickford, Aaron Ramsdale, and James Trafford. I'm guessing that's probably going to fall down to 3 goalkeepers. Defenders, he's gone for Jareth Braithwaite, Lewis Dunk, Joe Gomez, Mark Gahey, Ezra Konsa, Harry Maguire, Jarrell Kwanzaa, Luke Shaw, John Stones, Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker. In midfield, he's gone for Trent Alexander-Arnold, Conor Gallagher, Curtis Jones, Kobe Mayu, Declan Rice, and Adam Wharton. And for forwards, he's gone for Jude Bellingham, Jared Bowen, Eberici Eze, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Anthony Gordon, Harry Kane, James Maddison, Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Ivan Toney, and Ollie Watkins. Guys, obviously we're gonna talk about sort of what we would do if we were picking this squad in a minute. But I want to ask you all, what are your feelings around this sort of this England squad that's been announced going into these two friendlies? Are there any sort of names in there that are a bit of a shock to you? Is it sort of as you expected? And then we can obviously discuss about who we would lose out of those players if you were having to pick the squad yourself. AJ, how do you feel looking at that squad, and
Yeah,
would you feel it means
I'm
for
at,
England?
I'm actually pleasantly surprised by it. The number of Crystal Palace players in there I wouldn't have expected in any foresight. Marcus Rashford's been dropped after not playing well this season, which none of us probably expected. There's no Raheem Sterling. It seems like for once Southgate is actually rolling the dice a little bit with the players and bringing in some top end quality that have been on form over the last 12 months, as opposed to the names he knows and are trusted. There's a few trusted names in there that we can discuss as we whittle down our squads and all decide which 5 of these we'd be dropping, and probably argue about that afterwards. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised by the England squad, and it gives me hope. If only we weren't playing Southgate style of football, eh?
Mozza, how do you feel about it, mate?
It's kind of, yeah, pretty much as I expected. I wasn't sort of like blown away, but I think there's the right names in there. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the friendlies. I think then I can make more of an informed decision about who I would drop, who I would keep. But yeah, just like AJ said, is the problem Southgate ball? Probably. Are we going to win the Euros? Of course, every tournament, as Englishmen, we always go, yeah, this is the one. We're probably not. But maybe there's a good foundation there to build into the World Cup in a couple of years' time. So, yeah, I'm fairly happy with that.
And how about yourself, Drew?
I'm not a Southgate hater. I mean, we've come closest to winning a major tournament under him than we have in a long time. Looking at the squad, I echo the sentiments. I'm glad he's got rid of some people we thought were undroppable. I do have concerns about our fullback position. I can only see one obvious left back in the squad, and that's Luke Shaw, and we all know how he struggled with injuries. Whereas we seem to have at least 3 people, maybe 4, that can play right back. Yeah, I'm not upset about the selection at all. I think it's I hope he's brave though when it comes down to whittling the squad down and the 5 people he loses. I really do hope he's brave, but we'll see what we see.
My genuine feeling of it is I'm actually very happy with that provisional squad. I think there's an awful lot of players there that have got their own merit this season, namely those 4 Palace players. I'm really pleased to see that some of them are at least going to get a chance in the friendlies to try and prove that they should have a place in the Euro squad. And I think that for once, I've spent years complaining about England managers not picking players on form and picking players by name. And I think there's a good mix here of experience and young players that have shown really good form this year. I'm a little bit confused by a couple of the players that have managed to make it into the provisional squad. But, you know, again, it's one of those ones where you have to go, he's obviously trying to do something with that squad. And, you know, for myself, there'll probably be players that if I was whittling it down, they'd be whittled out. I'm surprised that Ivan Toney's managed to remain in the squad, even provisionally. His second half of his season last year, you know, he came back with a bomb, didn't he? But then he sort of dwindled out at the end of the season. But there isn't anybody else, I think, that can sort of do what he does within that England squad. So I sort of understand him being around the training centre for the week.
Solanke.
I wanted to ask you guys how you felt about Ivan Toney, but obviously I didn't want it to be biased, being anti-Brentford or anything like that. But quite literally because of what you've just said, Ash, his season dwindled after coming back.
Why not be anti-Brentford? He is.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I was about to make.
Yeah. I will say F Brentford, and that would be nothing that he wouldn't have said himself. No, it's one of those ones. Taking my Fulham cap off and putting my England cap on. I am one of those people that when it comes to looking at the England squad, I don't look at them in terms of what team they play for. I look at them at this point. That's the England squad, and then I'm going to support them no matter who they play for.
Yep.
I don't like Ivan Toney being in the England squad because of who Ivan Toney is. I know Brentford fans seem to be happy for him to be around their squad, but I don't think he's a good influence on the squad. We had this discussion when we were talking about Fulham players, about Kenny Tete and Bobby Decker-Over-Reed, and how I think they're good influences on the squad. I don't see Ivan Toney as a good influence on the squad. I can only assume that away from the public eye, he has got to be the best. He's got to be the biggest banter there is away from the camera and away he is, because the way he acts in front of the camera doesn't fill me with hope that he's going to be a good influence on that squad. And his football at the end of the season for me wasn't good enough to merit a position in there. But we'll see how that goes. I'm really happy to see that quite a lot of that provisional squad has been picked on form. You look at the Palace players getting in there, and all four of them deserve their chance at least in these games. I think that Wheaton getting in the squad is fully deserved. I think he's been absolutely outstanding since January, and I say that as someone who is recording this sat in the middle of Croydon. A lot of people around me are Palace fans, and they have been talking him up for a very long time. And I know that they are actually quite concerned that if he goes to the Euros this summer and has a good European Championship, that he'll gain a lot of interest from a lot of bigger
When
clubs.
did he sign? When did he sign for Palace?
Last summer from Blackburn.
Yeah, last
20
summer.
million.
Yeah. He's been outstanding for them the second half of the season, and I think that Palace do this every now and then when they manage to sign some absolute quality players that are not quite ready for the bigger clubs, but are ready for good Premier League football. And he's done it. He's done well. So I'll be excited to see that. I'm not saying he's good enough to get in the England squad for the Euros. I'm happy to see he's made it to the provisionals, and I'll be interested to see if he plays during these two friendlies we've got coming up this week, and where it goes from there.
I'll tell you who I am surprised to not see on this list, since we're talking about Crystal Palace. And it might be because he's turned us down, because he also has some interest from France, and I think it's one other nation as well, is Olise for Crystal Palace. He has been truly exceptional, and it's just like him in that England fold would just be like the cherry on top. With his recent performances and his form since January and his style of play, just thinking of someone like him, Foden and Saka, or any combination of our forwards behind Harry Kane is just lethal. He might be holding off for France, but he hasn't been selected for the France provisional squad, so it would have been one. I think France announced theirs before we did, so it gave Southgate the opportunity to get on the phone and be like, "Listen, you haven't been picked for France. Are you sure you don't want to be picked for England?" Maybe that happened. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. It would have been really nice to see us try and encourage one of these young, talented players not to pick their second nationality. Especially one playing in England. Yeah, we've missed out on the likes of Musiala, who has opted to play for Germany, but then he lives in Germany, he plays in Germany. That's kind of understandable, even if he was doing most of his academy over here. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen Elise in the fold, but I suppose that gives us a good opportunity to talk about who we would like to drop, I suppose. Do you want to start us off, Ash?
Yeah, so I'm just going to bring the team sheet back up for everyone to see, just so it's there. And I know that I'm looking at this squad now, and I'm thinking that for me personally, we have to drop a goalkeeper. You need two, maybe three for a European Championship at most. And looking at those names there, for me, goalkeeper is a position where England are weakest. If you're a young English goalkeeper coming up, I think you have a real chance of making it into an England squad come by next sort of World Cup if you can push on. But I would drop James Trafford. I just don't think he's had a good enough season at club level this year. I think he's only really in there because he's the fourth best English goalkeeper, and he's at the pick four for for that. Being fourth best English goalkeeper isn't really amazing at the moment. That is what that is. I think defender-wise, I'm really concerned about the left-hand side, like Drew is, and Luke Shaw. If we had a better left back, I wouldn't really pick Luke Shaw, but we don't have any other natural left backs. And you look at it and you go, Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier and Trent Alexander-Arnold all being in the England squad as well. I know England are looking at Trent to be more of a midfielder, and I think that works well for him there, and it's good because he can cover a few positions. For me, it's then a position that who goes with that, and I'm not too sure. I think in terms of dropping defenders, Mark Gahey has been great for Palace this year, so I really want to see him actually stay in the England squad. I don't know who I would drop in defence. If I was going to drop one, the name that probably stands out for me to drop would probably be Kwanzaa, just because the few times I've seen him this season, he's been really, really good. But then I've seen him play a couple of games where he's not been that great. But that's just me being super picky and saying, I've got to lose a couple of people there. Lewis Dunk as well, maybe. I'm not too sure. I don't think he's been so great second half of the season. Midfielder wise, there isn't much to choose there in the England squad in terms of midfielders. But if I was going to drop one of those names, I'd probably go for Conor Gallagher. I don't think he's pulled up many routes in the second half of the football season for him to go there. And I think Kobe Mainoo, who is the other name that people are sort of saying is sort of slightly on the list, on the edge, has been really, really good for Man United. I think that Man United haven't been great this season, but he's been one of those players that have been a sort of ray of light for them. So I'd like to see him maybe stay and get a chance. Forward-wise, sorry, it's really hard to pick who you drop out of those guys. By that I mean it's super easy. Sorry, Dan, you're gonna have to drop that. Ivan Toney shouldn't be in the England squad. Get him off that list now. Like that is what that is. And then from there, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit on the fence about Jarrod Bowen because I don't think West Ham had a great second half of the season, but I think he had an all right second half of the season. Anthony Gordon might be the one that might miss out because he's had a few injuries. So for
Bowen,
me,
to be fair.
Yeah, so is Bowen. It's really hard to say, isn't it? So for me, I'd be dropping Trafford. I'd be dropping Gerald Kwanzaa. I'd be dropping Conor Gallagher. I'd be dropping Ivan Toney, and I'd probably drop Anthony Gordon as well. Would be my 5 that wouldn't make it from that list. Feel free to absolutely ridicule me there with that, guys.
We will do, mate.
Tell me what you think.
I think I would probably agree with you, Ash. I'm not going to take too long on this because I don't know quite who I would drop. I know players that I definitely want to keep regardless of how these two friendlies go. Kobe Mainoo, you mentioned, Jude Bellingham. I think they're absolute. I think it's absolutely imperative that they go to the tournament. Anthony Gordon. Now, I feel like I shouldn't like him, but I do like him because he's quite a character and he's a bit of a villain, and I like that. Ivan Toney, as we've discussed, I don't know how he's made it in the squad. So, yeah, maybe he should.
Especially over the likes of Solanke.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I fully agree.
I think a lot of the forwards that are in that list there can play in attacking midfield roles. Like your Grealish, your Foden. Yeah, as I said, I think I can only make an informed decision from these two friendlies beforehand and go from there.
Cool.
That's
With that in mind, I'm happy to do my 5 if you want to bring it back up on screen for me, Ash.
Yeah, coming straight up for you now, mate.
Cool. To start off with the goalkeepers, I'd probably drop Aaron Ramsdale. He hasn't been playing. Just simple as that. James Trafford, as you said, probably isn't great, and he is a 4th best English keeper, but he has been playing more than Ramsdale, so it's a simple one for me for that. I want goalkeepers that have actually been playing for their clubs. Defenders wise, we yes, are missing a lot of left backs. We got a lot of centre backs that can fill in at left back. Lewis Dunk has to go for me. I'm sorry, Brighton have had probably one of their most disappointing seasons over the last few years, and he's a big part of that. And I just don't think he should be in the squad. I'd also drop Harry Maguire. I think we've got enough talent for that right-sided centre. For that left-sided centre back, that we don't need to be playing a right-footed player at left centre back. We just don't need to, and frankly, he has too many mistakes in him. Yes, he's performed excellently for England in the past, and he's one of the outstanding players under the Southgate era. But if we want to play a more progressive style of football, having Harry Maguire anywhere near the halfway line is going to kill us. So that's two of mine. I'll come back to the defenders because I might have to pick another one, but I'm probably dropping Curtis Jones from the midfielders. Just not enough game time for Liverpool. It's as simple as that. I think he's probably a good talent and will probably be in tournaments to come, but out of all of the other players, he just hasn't been the one that's had any particular peak of form during the season. You could argue that he's had consistent form when he has played, but yeah, just not enough time for me. Forwards wise, I'm going to be dropping Ivan Toney. Obviously, we don't need to discuss that, and I'm probably going to drop Jack Grealish. I don't know if that leaves me at 4 or 5, but I'm dropping Grealish just because same reason, he hasn't played, and all of the others have had really excellent spells of form. At one particular point in the season or another, where Jack Grealish is, I think he's got 3 goal contributions this season, which is just not very many. How many did I pick there? Was it 4 or 5?
No, you went 5. You've got two defenders, didn't you? So you've gone for 5.
Did I drop 2
You've gone for
defenders?
yeah, I think you did. You
Rams,
Harry Maguire,
Ramsdale, Maguire. Oh, yeah, Ramsdale, Maguire, Dunk, Curtis Jones. Yeah, I think I actually did. I 6.
and Ivan Toney. There you go. You've been over the top. You want England to go with one less player than they need. Either
Right,
overly confident or.
Curtis Jones can stay then.
And Drew, what about yourself?
Goalkeepers, probably Trafford. He's played a lot, but he's very young. He's had a tough season. Defenders, I agree with Dunk. Dunk can stay at home, so well can Quansah. Midfielders, again, I would also agree. I'd drop Jones. Up front, controversial moment, I'd drop Maddison. The reason being is he hasn't been the same since he was injured. You speak to any Spurs fan, he's been way out of form. I understand the points made about Toney. He sulked his way through the season. And Ash, I take on board everything you said about his presence in the dressing room. However, England have got a stable squad structure now. There's a clear captain there in Kane. What concerns me, and I appreciate we only play 1 forward at a time, is if we lose 1 forward, then we're down to 2. Whereas Maddison, what Maddison brings to the team, in my view, can be replicated by Eze, Foden, and especially Palmer. And I would very much like to see Palmer incorporated into the team. I know some people have opted to get rid of Conor Gallagher, but if you look at that midfield, and I'm specifically talking about the midfielders that we got up on the screen, he provides a clear goal threat, and he's been one of Chelsea's most consistent players this season. Adam Walton, we've already talked about. I think he's fabulous, and he has got a significant amount of upside. So 2 defenders, Jones from midfield, 1 of the goalkeepers, and Maddison, and then I would take the rest.
Coolio.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think if between all of us, if we all had the big England team, we probably wouldn't be too far off. And I think it's quite funny that I've noticed a pattern that there's certain players that we all agree on, certain players that we think that maybe shouldn't be there.
Quite surprised
well,
none
obviously
of you
we'll find
agreed
out.
on. Yeah, I'm quite surprised that none of you agreed on Maguire with me, but I suppose I just don't see him with the England goggles that a lot of England fans do.
I nearly did agree with that. Well, I do agree with that. I nearly mentioned him as well, but
I just think him and Dunk are the same player. Him and Dunk are the same player, but he's got more experience.
Dunk's left-footed though. Left-footed centre back on the left-hand side, which we've got plenty of.
He could be left-footed at home because he's not good enough for the England squad at the moment.
It's very true.
It's one of those things that, right? It is what it is, isn't it? I think that I know Harry Maguire. If you're a United fans, have to absolutely lambast him, and England fans jump on that too. I have never had a problem with Harry Maguire defending for England. Like, I've never had a problem with it. I do quite like him as a defender. And I think that he's got experience of being at a few tournaments now that he will help, especially because quite a lot of that squad is quite fresh, and this will be a first tournament experience for them. And it's good to have some experienced heads around. I'm not necessarily saying that Maguire's going to start those games, but we know Southgate, if he's in the squad, he will start those games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I think that you do need a mixture of some experience there who's been to tournaments who can sort of help those younger guys through. And especially when you look at some of the younger players that we're all looking at keeping in that squad, you want those heads around to keep them going.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. What I was going off of anyway when dropping Maguire was heavily influenced by us playing progressive football, which there's no guarantee Southgate will do, despite the fact that he's picked a progressive squad. Just because he's picked the best progressive players and the most free-flowing players of his selection, it doesn't mean that he's going to play that style of football. So.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. We know what it's like. The amount of times we've all moaned about some of the football that Southgate plays, but I personally think the Southgate football suits knockout football. It suits tournament football. So this is where I think he makes his money as a manager.
With that in mind, and speaking of knockouts, we should probably move on to the next topic, which is the Euros as a whole and our sweepstakes for the Euros, which is going to be a nice fun one for the fans to engage in. We're going to have a random selection of teams for us all to root for during the Euros, one from each group each. And from there, we will be going head to head to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, so obviously I'm gonna take over this just because I'm the one controlling the spinny wheel as it was. As AJ has just explained, that's exactly how we're going to roll. What we're going to do, we're trying to keep this as fair as possible. So we're going to do a roll now between the four of us, the spinning wheel, to work out what order we go in, and then basically what we do over the groups, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 in order they get drawn out, and then it'll be 4, 3, 2, 1 for the second group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, so on and so on. We'll draw our names and then we'll draw the groups, and it's just a bit of fun so that as the tournament goes through, we can have a little bit of a battle between ourselves to work out who can come on top. And we're trying to do this draw obviously to keep it as free as we can. What you guys don't know is I've actually prepared a little prize for the winner of the sweepstake. So just to keep it up for us, it's not a massive prize. It's not going to change the world. But I have a bottle of wine here that I'm not going to show on screen because I don't want to get cancelled for it. But the winner of the sweepstake as a whole will win the bottle of wine. But what we should do now is we're gonna sort of now we're gonna go through the sweepstake and we're gonna arrange each other's teams. So first thing we need to do is we need to work out what order we're gonna go in: 1, 2, 3, and 4. So on the screen now you can see our spinny wheel with our names on it, and we'll go through it there. So I'm gonna spin now, and the first person is going to be Drew. So Drew, you will be position number 1 in the first
Thank you.
draw.
I never win anything, so this is good news.
Number 2, as it goes through, as it stops eventually, will be me, and then Third and fourth place between Mozza and AJ.
There can only be one Jack.
And it isn't me.
It's on the line, isn't it?
Oh, it might be close. It's actually
it
AJ.
is!
There you go.
It
It's very
is!
close to the line. So number 3 will be
Right,
AJ.
I'm revoking
and
your
then
I'm
Mozza.
revoking your Jack rights, Mozza.
Jack right.
Go for it.
So Mozza, you are obviously number 4. So as we go to the groups, we'll bring it up now. So Group 1 should now be on the screen. You should have Germany, Scotland, Hungary, and Switzerland on your screen. And in first place, obviously, Drew, this will be for you. Team number 1 from the group is yours. He's only gone and got Scotland. What were you talking about winning?
I told you I never
you
win
were-
anything.
I'm expecting.
So,
I'm looking forward to you wearing a kilt for one of the upcoming streams.
You could hit Sassenach.
So, group obviously Drew has Scotland. My team for this group will be. It looks like Hungary. There you go. So I have got Hungary in Group A.
Battle of the Jacks
then
again.
Finally,
Can I
Battle of the
just
Jacks
say-
again. AJ.
My wife's half German, so
Hey,
oh my god.
Look at this. AJ has got
Ah,
Switzerland. So Mozza, you may have come last, but you've got Germany. You are Germany in Group A.
Still going to be the most hated man on the podcast. But I would say my wife's half German. She'll love that.
beautiful.
So we're going to
stuff.
move over to Group B now. So we have Spain, Croatia, Italy, and Albania. And
Just give
obviously,
me Albania now.
you were number 4, so you're good. Mozza, you are first spin, so we'll see who you get on this one.
Okay.
It giveth and it taketh away, I think. You might just get Spain here.
Oh my
look
god!
at this. How's he done that?
This is ridiculous.
You are Spain as well.
I think there's only
Gracias.
one that I'd be rooting for here, so I'm begging. Although I don't think I'm
Yes,
up next,
obviously.
am I?
You are. Whoever this lands on, I
I
think
am.
you're going to be good. You are
It's a
good. There you go.
For those who
He's
don't
picked
understand,
up
I am
Italy.
half Italian, so
He's picked
I'll
up
take
Italy.
that.
So it's now between me and Drew, between Croatia and Albania. And it'll be me who is selected on this one. Okay, it looks like I am Croatia.
Told you.
Yes, I am Croatia. So, Drew, you are Albania in
Scotland
Group
and
B.
Albania. You know what I mean?
Beautiful stuff.
We'll now move on to Group C, which is the England group. Obviously, you've got England, Slovenia, Denmark, and Serbia. Drew, you are first pick in this draw, so we'll get it going.
He's going to get England, isn't he? I knew
he's
it.
Going to get England. He's going to get England.
There you go.
Drew, there you go. You are
Got
England in Group C. I will therefore take the next one, which is going to be Serbia, isn't it? Yep. So it looks like I am Serbia in our Group C.
You're going to be singing Mitro's on Fire again.
And then
Sasa Lukic FC.
Sasha Lukic. Here we go, mate. And then obviously between Denmark and Slovenia, between AJ and Mozza. AJ, it looks like you've got Denmark. So Mozza, AJ, you are Denmark. Mozza, you are Slovenia in Group.
I'll take it.
Yes. Right. And then here we have Group D, which is the group of death, as it's been named. We've got Poland, Netherlands, Austria, and France. Again, we're going in reverse order again. So, Mozza, you are first pick in this group.
I want Netherlands.
Do you?
You want Netherlands. I think you might be getting Poland.
You're getting the polish.
Yeah. You are Polish. You are
James,
Poland in this group. And then AJ next.
To
Maybe
bring
spin.
home the wine, give me France and Italy. It's going to be Holland.
I think you might be getting the Dutch.
Netherlands. I'm happy
AJ,
with that too.
You are Netherlands. So this is drawish for me. So it's between France and Austria, between me and Drew. And it looks like I'm going to be stuck with another dead team. Oh, am I going to be lucky? Am I going to be lucky? Am I going to be lucky?
You get
Yes,
France.
I am. Just about. I'm France.
It's just for the audio only
So that-
listeners, he got France by less than a fingernail.
I wouldn't even call it a fingernail. I would call it a Frenchman's use of deodorant. But we'll go from the next one. We are then a Group E. Am I right? Yeah, Group E, which is Belgium, Slovakia, Romania, and Ukraine. Drew, you are first pick in this group. You are Slovakia.
To be
Can't
fair,
quite
out of
work
that
out
group, they're
good or-
probably
good
the
or
second
bad with that
strongest.
group.
I'm not overly upset
They
with that, to
probably
tell you the
are.
truth.
And I will take I will take on the second pick in the group, which looks like I'm going to get Ukraine.
Leaving us to a battle of the Jacks again.
There we go. So I am Ukraine. So in the battle of the Jacks of this group, you're either going to be Romania or Belgium. AJ, obviously, who it lands on is who you're going to be. Looks like I think you may just sneak Belgium here.
I've done all right here.
You've done really well here. I'm a bit jealous, actually, talking about
Italy,
it.
Belgium,
Yep, you've got Belgium, which
Netherlands.
means you are Romania, Mozza. And then our final group, which is Group F, which is Turkey, Georgia, Portugal, and the Czech Republic. We'll go again in this order. Mozza, your first pick in this group.
It's got to be Portugal.
May be Georgia.
Oh,
It's a funny way to spell
Georgia.
Portugal.
I'll take Georgia.
Stopping. I think it's stopping. It's been slightly short of Portugal. You are Georgia. AJ, your final team for the Euros.
I'll take a Turkey.
Is going to be Turkey.
I'll take
It
Turkey.
is. It stopped on Turkey. And then finally, the last two teams of the tournament between me and Drew, who it lands on, I get obviously as it spins. It looks like I'm going to get Czech Republic.
Oh,
so I am the Czech Republic, which leaves Drew with Portugal.
England, Portugal. You've done all right there, Drew.
Here we go.
Not much for not winning
Really?
anything. At least in the groups.
So we'll bring it back up on the screen just for all of us. So obviously we'll put together a little bit of a timetable, and we're looking at it. Obviously, the opening game of the tournament is going to be Scotland versus Germany opening game, isn't it? So we'll put out some extra graphics. I need to go away and create the graphics for the group stages now, just so that it's broken down. But we'll keep up with it. We'll post some videos as the tournament progresses between us. A bit of banter. I feel like
Drew
I'm going to take
versus-
a bit of a kick in this tournament.
Drew versus Mozza for the kickoff game of the tournament. It'll be fun to see how that goes.
Dankeschön.
Dankeschön.
Yeah, I
Dankeschön.
think
And while we're
it's
set-
going to be a painful tournament for me.
We'll have to wait and see. And for everyone at home, feel free to tune in and stay involved and let us know who you think is going to win the sweepstake and who you think is going to actually win the Euros. In fact, tell us what you think of everything that we've said today. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one. Ciao.
Ciao.
See you in a couple of weeks, guys.